Last week, we talked about why we force, the anxiety, the family patterns, the cultural messages that make forcing feel like love and like responsibility. And we also talked about what it costs, that grief that we have to work through when we stop forcing and we start allowing. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go back and start there. This will make so much more sense if you understand that foundation. Today, we are focusing on how to actually lean in to allowing versus forcing. And you might be thinking, what do I actually do when my loved one calls, or when someone's making a choice that I don't like, or my friend is stuck? We're covering 4 things today. Your but what about questions, a nervous system practice for in-the-moment use, what allowing actually sounds like, a framework that makes it possible. So let's dive in. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I'm Jill Pack, and this is episode number 189, part 2 of our conversation on allowing versus forcing. The idea of allowing sounds nice, sounds good, and maybe even makes sense if the situation is simple. But what about when it's actually serious? Let's talk about some of those big concerns. Number 1, what if they're making a dangerous choice? Now, I want you to understand that allowing is not the same as silence. We want to be honest and speak the truth. We can tell our loved one, I'm worried about you. Here's what I'm seeing. I love you so much, and I don't want to watch you hurt yourself. What you're allowing is their response, their timeline, their journey to their own realization. The difference between speaking honestly and forcing isn't what you say, it's what you do after. Speaking honestly says it once and releases it. Forcing it says it 17 times, trying to control the outcome. In the Bible, Jesus teaches us the parable of the prodigal son. This father let that son go. He didn't chase him. He didn't send 17 letters. He didn't cut him off. He allowed the journey while staying in the posture of love. The father created space for genuine return. Number 2, but what if they don't have capacity? This is important. If someone truly lacks the capacity, such as a young child, someone with dementia, someone in crisis, then stepping in isn't forcing, it's stewarding. We want to ask ourselves a couple of questions. Am I responding to their actual capacity, or am I treating them as incapable because I'm anxious? Is my response more about me feeling better than about their capacity? That's important to consider. Number 3, but what if my worry is keeping them safe? Now, this belief is an easy one to fall into, but your anxiety does not have the power you think it does. Your worry about your husband's health cannot prevent a heart attack. Your repeated advice cannot prevent your daughter from making mistakes. The question isn't, what if something bad happens and I wasn't forcing? It's this, what if I spend my whole life forcing? Something bad happens anyway, and I've also damaged the relationship. And number 4, isn't allowing just enabling? No, allowing releases control over their choices. Boundaries protect what you will and won't accept in your life. If you're having a tense conversation with a family member and they start to yell, it might sound like, I can't control how you speak, but I won't stay in a conversation when you yell. And when we can calm down, I would love to have a conversation about this. That's allowing with boundaries. Both are necessary, and boundaries actually get clearer when we stop forcing. So what do we do when that forcing urge hits? This is a nervous system problem, not a thinking problem. When someone you love is struggling, your body perceives threat and it activates your fight or flight response. And in that state, forcing feels urgent and necessary. But just like my granddaughter that I talked about last week on the ski slope, she was safe, but she didn't feel safe. You might know you can't control the outcome, but your nervous system thinks you're in danger. You must regulate your nervous system so that you can access your clear thinking brain. You do this by practicing the safety sequence that I talk about in episode number 183. This is something that I learned from my coach and mentor, Leah Davidson. So I'm going to share with you a 4-step process that you can use that kind of builds on Leah's safety sequence that you can use in those moments so that you can use your clear thinking brain. Step 1, notice. Watch for these signals: tight chest, clenched jaw, shallow breathing, urgency, repetitive thoughts, the need to intervene now. And when you notice these, pause, even just for a few seconds. Don't act from that state. Step number 2, ask 2 questions. Put your hand on your heart and ask, am I safe right now? And look around. Make sure you're really safe. And if you aren't, get out of there. Usually the answer is yes. But even if it's no, assess if you need to leave. And the second question is, do I feel safe? And often the answer to this is no. And that's okay. It's just like my granddaughter. She recognized she was safe, but she did not feel safe. And then you want to name the gap. I'm safe, but I don't feel safe. My nervous system thinks there's danger, but there isn't. That messaging is going to help your body to begin to relax, which leads us to step number 3, relax and regulate. This is helping your body catch up. And you can do this by breathing. Maybe you inhale for 4 counts, you hold for 4, and then you exhale for 6. That extended exhale is going to lower your heart rate. And you can do this 3 to 5 times. You can ground yourself by feeling your feet and noticing 5 things that you can see. Or you can walk, shake your arms, roll your shoulders. And another important piece is self-compassion. Reminding yourself that this is hard. It makes sense that you're scared. And step number 4, assess from a regulated place. You can ask yourself, what does this situation actually need from me? Not what your anxiety wants you to do. What does love require? Sometimes nothing, just presence, just being there. Sometimes it's speaking honestly once and then releasing it. And sometimes it means setting a boundary. You'll only know the difference from a regulated state. Here's a quick example. Your daughter calls about the same relationship issue. Notice what happens inside your body. Your chest is tight. You have that urgency to fix. That's the invitation to ask yourself the 2 questions. Am I safe? Yeah, I'm safe. I'm on the phone. Do I feel safe? No, I'm afraid she'll stay stuck. She's going to ruin her life, right? Those spinning thoughts. Of course you don't feel safe. So then the next step is to relax and regulate. Take 3 deep breaths. She's an adult. My anxiety isn't actually danger, right? And then after you've calmed your nervous system down, that's when you assess. She needs listening, not fixing. I can offer perspective if she asks. We do not have to force. We can allow the conversation to play out without forcing and controlling the outcome. The important thing to remember is that you cannot choose allowing from a dysregulated nervous system. When you are in fight or flight, allowing feels like abandonment. It feels like failure. It feels like negligence. But when you are regulated, when you've helped your body feel safe, allowing can feel like trust, like love, like honoring someone's autonomy while staying in relationship. So the work isn't just changing your behavior, it's changing your state first and then choosing from that different state. And some days you'll do this beautifully. You'll notice the urge, you'll relax, you'll regulate yourself, and you'll choose allowing from a centered place. And some days you'll force it anyway. You'll send that text, you'll say that thing, you'll try to control the outcome, And that's okay. You're human. This is a practice, not perfection. We learn from each interaction, each situation. And when that happens, you come back to this. Notice, question, relax and regulate, assess, and try again. Okay, so you understand the nervous system piece. You're practicing the regulation and the relaxing, but you might still be wondering, what do I actually say? What does allowing sound like in a real conversation? Allowing doesn't mean becoming silent or passive. It doesn't mean you can't share your perspective or express your feelings. The difference is in the energy behind your words and what you're trying to accomplish with them. So I'm going to share with you 3 examples, what forcing sounds like versus what allowing sounds like. So in scenario number 1, you have an adult child who left the faith that you raised them with. Forcing sounds like this. I sent you that article. Did you read it? I really think it would help you understand. You know, if you just come to church on Easter, I think you'd remember why it mattered. People ask about you, and it would mean so much to me. I just worry where you'll find community, where you'll find truth. And allowing could sound something like this. I want you to know that I miss sharing faith with you, and it is a loss for me. And I also want you to know that I trust you on your own journey. Our relationship mattered to me more than agreeing on this. I've shared my thoughts with you, and now I'm going to let it go. I love you. Scenario number 2, husband's health. Forcing could sound like you didn't go to the doctor again. You promised. Don't you know what could happen? Your dad died at 62. You're 58. I made you an appointment for Thursday, and you are going. And we need to talk about exercise. I found this program we could do together. Allowing sounds like, when you don't take care of your health, I feel scared. And I love you so much, and I want you here. I've said this before, and I'm not going to keep saying it, but your health impacts me, and I need you to know that. I can't want your wellness more than you want it. I'm going to work on managing my own anxiety instead of trying to manage you, and I love you. And scenario number 3, you have a friend in an unhealthy relationship. Forcing sounds like he is not going to change. This is the 5th time you've done this. You need to block his number. You need therapy. I can't keep watching you do this. It's honestly exhausting. You ask what to do, I tell you, and then you go back to him anyway. What's it going to take? Allowing could sound like, I love you, and watching you hurt is really hard for me. You know I think this relationship isn't healthy. I've said that, but I'm not going to keep saying that. I'm here when you're ready to make a change, but I need to be honest. I can't keep having the same conversation. You know what I think, so it's yours to navigate. Do you hear the pattern? Forcing repeats, it pressures, there's this urgency and fear around it, and it takes over their responsibility. Allowing speaks honestly once, releases the outcome, honors their journey, sets a boundary about what you will and what you won't do. Both involve speaking. The difference is what you're trying to accomplish. But there's something important to remember. Allowing doesn't always require words. Sometimes it's just that internal work of relaxing and regulating yourself, releasing the outcome, and then choosing not to intervene. Your friend calls again about that same relationship issue. You listen with compassion. You don't offer advice. And when you hang up, you breathe and you release the need to fix it. No announcement needed. Your spouse makes a choice about their health you disagree with. You notice that forcing urge. You regulate your nervous system. You choose to let them have their own journey, and you don't say a word. Your adult child posts something on social media, and you start to feel anxious. You feel that urge to text them, but you pause. You relax, you regulate, you scroll on past. That's allowing. Sometimes the most powerful allowing is silence. It's the choice you make internally to stop trying to control without making it a conversation at all. So you've got to decide, is this a conversation that is important to you, or is the conversation even necessary? Is this something that can be handled within? This week, think about one relationship where you've been in forcing mode. I want you to write out what you've been saying and look at it. And then try writing it as if you are allowing, that you're stepping into that posture of allowing, which is saying your perspective once and then releasing the outcome. You might not use these words yet, but practicing the language starts creating new neural pathways. So let's go even a little deeper. For those of us of faith, this isn't just about psychology, it also has a spiritual aspect to it. Halverson teaches this concept of contraries, that spiritual tension. We're taught to be responsible, speak honestly, and care for our families. But we're also taught to trust God, to surrender, to cast our anxieties on Him. So which is it? Well, it's both and. We speak honestly and release outcomes. We act in love and trust what we cannot control. The question isn't whether to engage, it's how to engage. In the parable of the prodigal son, the father let his son go. Yet he never forgot his son. He watched the road daily, but he didn't force. That allowing created space for genuine return. Often we focus on this parable around that prodigal son, but there's so much to learn from the father and how he demonstrates this allowing. When we force, in essence, we're saying, God, I don't trust you. My effort is more reliable than your influence and love. When we allow, we're saying you love them even more than I do. I'm releasing them to you. This is recognizing that God is God and we are not. Grace is received, not earned. You can't force grace. You can only allow it. When we force, we operate from works. When we allow, we operate from grace. Trusting what needs to happen will, not because we forced it, but because of something bigger. Now, this is scary. Allowing requires walking by faith, not by sight. As humans, we want those guarantees because that feels safer. It feels more secure. But faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith watches the prodigal son walk away. Faith allows someone you love to make choices you fear. Allowing isn't passivity. It's active trust. It's not giving up. It's choosing a different way to engage. What if allowing is the most faithful thing you can do? What if your grip is getting in the way of what God wants to do? That moment on the ski slope with my granddaughter is a picture of every important relationship. The outcome I wanted did happen, not because I forced it, but because I allowed space for her to regulate and find her own courage. The same is true in our adult relationships. The connection we long for, we cannot force it. The change we hope for, we can't control it. The healing we desperately want, we can't make it happen. Allowing doesn't guarantee the outcome that we want, but forcing guarantees relational damage we don't want. I've struggled over the last few weeks deciding what my word of the year for 2026 was going to be. And then it settled into my heart. Allow. What if the life I'm reaching for is found in allowing, not forcing? What if the peace comes from releasing, not managing? What if the joy is on the other side of surrender? So choose that relationship where you've been forcing. For the next few days, stop repeating that same advice you've been giving. Step back from managing their choices. When you're catastrophizing, regulate. Am I safe? Do I feel safe? Relax. And if you need to speak, say it once with love, and then trust they heard. When tempted to force, pause. That is your invitation to pause. Put your hand on your heart or somewhere on your person and breathe and choose presence. Notice what happens in your body. Notice what happens in that relationship. And notice what happens to your spirit. Allowing often creates the opening forcing never could. You're not responsible for controlling their journeys. You're not responsible for saving them. You're only responsible for how you show up. Your anxiety cannot protect them. Your trust in God, who loves them more than you do, that has power beyond imagination. My wish for you is that you might find the courage to release what you cannot control, that you find wisdom to speak honestly and trust, that you might find peace in allowing instead of forcing. Allow what is, receive what comes. Open your heart. That's where the joy is. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next week.